The results of the 2023 Mental State of the World report from Sapien Labs indicate the dramatic decline in mental well-being during and after the pandemic continues to persist around the globe with no sign of recovery. Over 500,000 respondents were surveyed, including 71 countries in 13 different languages, and the results are quite concerning.
I think a lot of it comes down to what we're, putting into our minds and into our bodies, and what's going in both these ways is not healthy for us anymore.
Sapien Labs founder and chief scientist Dr. Thiagarajan just released Sapien's 2023 Mental State of the World report. She says there are 3 different factors why globally our mental well-being continues to struggle. And it starts with the age of a child's first smartphone.
There's a very systematic increase in mental health challenges in adulthood the younger you got a smartphone.
And new research indicates there are specific aspects impacted by that age.
The younger you got your smartphone, the more likely you are to have suicidal thoughts as a young adult. The more likely you are to feel detached from reality. The more likely you are to feel aggression.
Lower income countries, which perform better, reported a person's first smartphone at 16 to 17 years old. But the wealthier countries, struggling at higher rates, gave a child 9 to 11 years old their first smartphone. The second factor impacting our mental well-being, the higher consumption of ultra-processed food and how it affects the brain and body.
It actually impacts very broadly every aspect of mental function, but more specifically, symptoms associated with depression and also aspects of emotional and cognitive control.
Interestingly, the wealthier the country, the worse they performed in this report.
More developed countries, a larger proportion of their food consumption is ultra-processed. Whereas if you look at, the countries that are doing a lot better in Latin America, in sub-Saharan Africa, their food systems are much more fresh food.
She also believes the food industry is in need of more research and more regulation so that globally there's a safer food environment.
There's not been much regulation at all of food and the chemicals that go into food, and there's, has been over the last few decades a huge increase in the number of chemical additives. They're untested. We don't know a lot of them, what impact they actually have in the long term.
The third factor, deteriorating family bonds.
With each younger generation, you see a decline in closeness to family. You see an increase in estrangement from family. And this is more so in more developed countries, whereas the less developed countries, which are more at the top of our rankings, have much closer families.
As in previous years, several African and Latin American countries top the rankings in their mental well-being, but wealthier countries of the core Anglosphere, like the United Kingdom and Australia, performed towards the bottom of the list. The United States performed in the middle of the pack.